The rain slicked the asphalt of Highland Avenue, reflecting the flashing red and blue lights that cut through the darkness. A crowd had already gathered, phones raised like weapons, capturing the humiliation of a man in a bespoke suit being shoved against the hood of a gleaming Bentley. To the aggressive officer twisting the man's wrist, this was just another thug in a stolen ride. To the man wincing in pain, it was a gross violation of the very laws he had sworn to uphold. The officer smirked, thinking he had caught a criminal. He did not realize he had just assaulted a sitting justice of the state Supreme Court, and one of them would lose everything. The sun bathed the pristine streets of Kensington Heights in a warm amber glow. It was the kind of neighborhood where lawns were manicured with surgical precision, and the silence was only broken by the hum of expensive engines. For Leland Thorpe, this quiet was a luxury earned through years of sleepless nights, law library basements, and the relentless pressure of the bench. Leland adjusted the rearview mirror of the vintage Shelby GT 500. It was a deep midnight blue, a retirement gift to himself. Though retirement was a loose term, as a newly appointed justice to the state Supreme Court, his workload had shifted from quantity to gravity. He was not chasing criminals anymore. He was shaping the interpretation of the law itself. He tapped the steering wheel to the rhythm of a jazz track playing softly from the dashboard. It was special. It was his daughter's birthday. In the passenger seat sat a small velvet box containing a diamond pendant, a family heirloom he had picked up from the jeweler just minutes ago. He pulled the Shelby over to the curb near a high-end bakery on 4th Street. She loved the raspberry tarts from Lady Four, and he intended to clear their shelf. Leland stepped out of the car, the heavy door shutting with a satisfying mechanical thud. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal wool coat over a navy suit. His hair was peppered with dignified gray, and he moved with the slow, deliberate confidence of a man who rarely needed a rush. As he locked the car, he noticed a patrol cruiser slow down as it passed him. The markings on the side read, Oak Creek Police Department. Leland gave a polite nod, a habit from his days as a prosecutor working closely with law enforcement. The cruiser did not nod back. It braked. The window rolled down, revealing Officer Travis Kane. Travis was young, with a buzz cut and a jawline set in permanent defiance. He wore his badge not as a shield, but as a license. Beside him sat a rookie, Officer Finn Brooks, who looked nervous, his eyes darting between his partner and the man on the sidewalk. "Nice car," Travis called out. The tone was not complimentary. It was skeptical. Leland paused, hand on the parking meter. He smiled politely, ignoring the edge in the officer's voice. "Thank you, officer. It is a classic. Do not see many of those around here," Travis continued. The cruiser now idling right alongside Leland, especially not driven by. Travis let the sentence hang, his eyes raking over Leland's face, then down to his shoes. "Bye," Leland prompted, his voice calm, the baritone resonance of a man used to commanding a courtroom. "By people who do not live in the Heights," Travis finished, leaning an elbow out the window. "You live around here, pal?" Leland stiffened slightly. "Pal?" The disrespect was subtle, but practiced. He had heard it 1,000 times in his youth, and surprisingly less often as he ascended the legal ladder, but without his robes out here on the street, he was just another black man in a nice car in the wrong zip code. "I live about miles east, actually," Leland said, keeping his hands visible and his tone neutral. "Just picking up a birthday gift for my daughter." "East Side?" Travis chuckled, turning to Brooks. "He is from the East Side, but he is driving a Shelby in the Heights. That math adding up to you, Brooks?" Brooks muttered something unintelligible, looking down at the laptop in the squad car. "Is there a problem, officer?" Leland asked. "I'm legally parked. The meter is paid. Travis opened his door and stepped out. He was not a tall man, but he compensated with a puffed-out chest and a hand resting casually yet threateningly near his holster. The problem is, we have had a lot of thefts involving high-end classics lately. Just doing my due diligence, step away from the vehicle. Leland sighed internally. He knew the law better than Travis likely knew the alphabet. Reasonable suspicion required more than a hunch based on demographics, but he also knew the reality of the street. Arguing the Fourth Amendment on the sidewalk usually led to handcuffs or worse. The courtroom was for battles. The street was for survival. Officer, this is my vehicle. I have the registration in the glove box. My wallet is in my inside pocket. I am happy to show you my identification. I said step away from the vehicle, Travis barked, his voice jumping an octave. He closed the distance between them, invading Leland's personal space. Passers-by began to slow down. A woman walking a poodle stopped and stared, clutching her dog tighter. Leland took a slow step back, raising his hands to chest level, palms open. I am complying. I am simply stating that the identification you need to verify ownership is inside the car. Hands on the hood now, Travis shouted. Officer, there is no need for shouting, Leland said, his voice dropping to a steely calm. I am an active justice of the state Supreme Court. If you check the plates, you will see the vehicle is registered to me. Travis froze for a split second, then let out a sharp, derisive laugh. A judge? Yeah, right. And I am the King of England. We got a comedian here, Brooks. Hands on the hood, Your Honor. He grabbed Leland's shoulder and shoved him. Leland stumbled forward, his chest hitting the pristine paint of the Shelby. Pain flared in his shoulder, an old tennis injury aggravated by the rough handling. The dignity he wore like armor was being stripped away layer by layer in front of the horrified patrons of the bakery. You are making a mistake, officer, Leland said, turning his head to look Travis in the eye. A very expensive mistake. Shut up. Travis kicked Leland's legs apart, patting him down aggressively. He reached into Leland's pocket and yanked out the wallet, tossing it onto the hood of the car without even opening it. Brooks, run the VIN. Let us see who this guy really stole this from. Leland closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He memorized the badge number shining in the sunlight. He memorized the name tag. He memorized the face, the sneer, the arrogance, the utter lack of fear. Travis leaned in close to Leland's ear, his breath smelling of stale coffee and mints. You think a suit makes you one of them? You think you can just drive into my district and act like you own the place? I see you. I know what you are. And what am I, Officer Kane? Leland whispered. The suspect, Travis spat. As Brooks typed into the computer, the radio crackled. But Travis was not listening to the radio. He was too busy enjoying the power trip, twisting Leland's arm behind his back a little harder than necessary, waiting for the man to resist. Vehicle comes back clear. Brooks's voice wavered from the car. Registered to a Leland Thorpe, no warrants, clean record. Travis blinked. He looked at the car, then at Leland. For a second, doubt flickered in his eyes, but his ego smothered it instantly. Fake plates, he muttered. They are getting better at this. Or he stole the identity too. Officer, Leland said, look at the ID in the wallet. It is right there. Travis grabbed the wallet, flipping it open. He glanced at the driver's license. Leland Thorpe. Then he saw the second card behind it, a heavy gold-embossed card with the state seal. Justice of the Supreme Court. Travis stared at it. The silence stretched heavy and suffocating. A smart man would have backed down. A smart man would have apologized, dusted Leland off, and prayed for mercy. But Travis Kane was not a smart man. He was a man who believed that admitting a mistake was a sign of weakness. He panicked. If he let this guy go now after roughing him up, he would be in trouble. But if he found something, anything, to justify the stop, he might just cover his tracks. Fake ID? Travis announced loudly, tossing the wallet back under the hood. Possession of forged government documents, that is a felony. Leland's eyes widened. This was no longer just profiling, this was a frame-up in real time. You cannot be serious. Turn around. Travis unclipped his handcuffs. You are under arrest. The click of the handcuffs was a sound Leland had heard thousands of times, usually from the comfortable distance of the prosecutor's table or the judge's bench. Feeling the cold metal bite into his own wrists was a jarring, surreal inversion of his reality. Officer Kane, Leland said, his voice straining against the pain in his shoulders as his arms were wrenched high behind his back. I am advising you legally and personally to call your watch commander immediately. I do not take orders from perps, Travis grunted, pushing Leland toward the squad car. The crowd had grown. Smartphones were recording every angle. A young woman in a barista apron shouted, "He did not do anything. He was just parking." "Back up!" Travis yelled at the bystanders, his hand dropping to his baton. "Interfering with an arrest is a crime. Back the hell up." He shoved Leland into the back of the cruiser. The hard plastic seat was unforgiving. The interior smelled of industrial cleaner and old sweat. Leland, a man of considerable stature, had to contort his legs to fit. The humiliation was total. He watched through the wire mesh as Travis high-fived Brooks, who looked like he was about to be sick. Travis got into the driver's seat. "You see that, rookie? You do not let them talk their way out of it. You control the scene." "Travis, I do not know," Brooks whispered. "That ID looked real and the car came back to him. If he is actually a judge—" "He is not a judge, you idiot," Travis snapped, throwing the car into gear. "Judges are old white guys named Resolute or Harrison. This guy is a grifter. Probably washes money for the cartel. We just made the bust of the month." As the cruiser pulled away, Leland closed his eyes and began to count. He needed to keep his heart rate down. He needed to think like a lawyer, not a victim. He mentally cataloged every procedural error. Lack of probable cause, excessive force, failure to verify identification, failure to Mirandize. The ride to the 4th precinct was a blur of aggressive turns and sudden stops. Travis was driving angrily, perhaps trying to shake the growing pit of anxiety in his own stomach. They arrived at the precinct sally port. The heavy garage doors rolled down, sealing them inside the concrete belly of the station. Travis hauled Leland out of the car. "Walk," Travis commanded. They entered the booking area. It was chaotic. An evening in the city meant drunk and disorderly, petty thefts, and domestic disputes. The air was thick with noise. Sitting at the booking desk was Sergeant Reyes. Sergeant Reyes was an old-school cop, a man who had survived decades on the force by knowing when to act and when to listen. He was sipping lukewarm coffee when Travis marched Leland in. Sergeant Reyes looked up. He saw Travis looking flushed and triumphant. Then he looked at the prisoner. Sergeant Reyes squinted. He put down his coffee cup slowly. "Travis?" Sergeant Reyes said, his voice low. "What do you have here?" "Grand theft auto, possession of forged government documents, resisting arrest," Travis recited, puffing his chest. "Caught him with a stolen Shelby GT 500, had a fake ID saying he was some kind of Supreme Court justice." The booking room went quiet. The other officers paused their conversations. Sergeant Reyes stood up. He walked around the desk, his eyes fixed on Leland. He looked at the tailored suit, now rumpled and dusty. He looked at the expensive watch on Leland's wrist, but mostly he looked at Leland's face. Sergeant Reyes had testified in court hundreds of times. He knew the judges. He knew the prosecutors. Unlock him, Sergeant Reyes said. What? Travis blinked. Sarge, this guy's dangerous. I said unlock him now, Sergeant Reyes roared, the sound echoing off the concrete walls. Travis jumped. He fumbled for his keys. Sarge, I am telling you the ID is fake. He claims to be Justice Leland Thorpe. Sergeant Reyes finished the sentence. Appointed to the state Supreme Court, formerly the district attorney for reckless homicide cases, the man who put away the gang leaders in the Operation Ironclad bust. Travis's key froze in the lock. The color drained from his face so fast it looked like he might faint. You know him? Every cop worth his badge knows him, Travis, Sergeant Reyes said, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. Because he is the one who signs the warrants for the biggest cases in the state. The cuffs clicked open. Leland rubbed his wrists, grimacing. Deep red welts had formed where the metal had dug in. He straightened his coat, dusting off the shoulder where Travis had shoved him. Leland looked at Sergeant Reyes. Thank you, Sergeant. Your Honor, Sergeant Reyes said, snapping to attention. I cannot apologize enough. I do not know what this officer was thinking. He was not thinking, Sergeant, Leland said calmly, though his eyes were burning with cold fire. He turned his gaze slowly toward Travis. Travis was backing away, his hands shaking. I did not know. You did not look like... the car. You did not look like a judge. Leland stepped closer. The booking room was dead silent. What does a judge look like, Officer Kane? Do we have a uniform we must wear to the bakery? Or is it that you simply could not conceive that a black man could earn this life without stealing it? I was just doing my job, Travis stammered, falling back on the only defense he knew. I have the right to investigate suspicious activity. Suspicious activity? Leland repeated. Driving while black in a wealthier neighborhood? Is that the code for it in your logbook? I thought the ID was fake, Travis pleaded, looking to Sergeant Reyes for help. But Sergeant Reyes was staring at him with a look of pure disgust. You did not check it, Leland said. You threw my wallet on the hood. You assumed. And when you realized you might be wrong, you doubled down. You tried to charge me with a felony to cover your own incompetence. Leland reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, which Travis had thankfully missed during the pat-down. The screen was cracked. Sergeant Reyes, Leland said, not breaking eye contact with Travis. I need to make a call, not for bail, but to the chief of police and then to the district attorney. Yes, Your Honor. Use my office, Sergeant Reyes said, gesturing to a glass-walled room. As Leland walked past Travis, he paused. He leaned in just as Travis had done to him on the street. You asked me if I knew what I was, Leland whispered. I am the man who is going to ensure you never wear a badge again. An officer, that is not a threat. That is a verdict. Leland walked into the office and closed the door. Travis stood alone in the center of the booking room, the eyes of every other officer boring into him. He looked at his hands. His hands were trembling uncontrollably. He had just arrested the law, and the law was about to strike back. The locker room of the Oak Creek precinct was usually a sanctuary, a place of loud jokes and the distinct smell of drying Kevlar. Tonight, it was a tomb. Travis Kane sat on a wooden bench, staring at the gray metal of his locker. His hands were still trembling, though he had clenched them into fists to hide it. He is just a judge, Travis muttered, more to convince himself than anyone else. He is not God. I followed protocol. He resisted. Across the aisle, Officer Finn Brooks was hurriedly changing out of his uniform. He looked pale, like a man who had just witnessed a train wreck and realized he was standing on the tracks. We need to get our story straight, Travis hissed, leaning forward. Write it up exactly like I said. He was aggressive. He made a move toward his waistband. The ID looked suspicious. You back me up, Brooks, and the union takes care of us. You flake and you are on your own. Brooks paused, holding his boot. He looked at Travis with a mixture of pity and fear. Travis, I saw the sergeant's face. I saw the chief running down the hallway. This is not a parking ticket dispute. You arrested a Supreme Court justice on his daughter's birthday. So what? Travis snapped. Cops make mistakes. Qualified immunity, kid, look it up. We are untouchable as long as we acted in good faith. Good faith? Brooks dropped his boot. You called him a thug, Travis. You laughed at him. Before Travis could respond, the locker room door banged open. It was not the sergeant. It was Officer Lane from the Cyber Crimes Unit holding a tablet. He looked breathless. You guys need to see this, Officer Lane said, walking straight to Travis. It is trending #1 in the state, climbing nationally. Travis grabbed the tablet. It was a video from Twitter, posted by a user named City Watchdog. The caption read, Oak Creek PD assaults Supreme Court Justice Thorpe, #Justice for Justice, #police brutality. Travis hit play. The video was high definition, shot from the sidewalk by the bakery. The angle was perfect. It showed Leland Thorpe standing calmly with his hands up. It captured the audio crystal clear. I am Justice Leland Thorpe of the state Supreme Court. Then the shove, the violent impact of Leland's chest against the Shelby, the collective gasp of the crowd. But the worst part, the part that made Travis's stomach drop through the floor, was the close-up zoom the bystander had managed. It showed Travis's face twisted in a sneer as he leaned into Leland's ear. The microphone did not catch the whisper, but the body language was undeniable. It looked like a predator toying with prey. Then came the kicker. The video did not end with the arrest. It cut to a second clip filmed minutes later inside the precinct by another arrestee who had smuggled a phone in. It showed Sergeant Reyes shouting, Travis looking terrified, and Leland Thorpe standing in the center of the chaos, adjusting his coat with the dignity of a king, delivering his final line. That is a verdict. The video had millions of views. It had been posted minutes ago. In the comments, Officer Lane whispered, They found your address, Travis. They found your high school yearbook photo. They found that post you made on Facebook about how some people need to be taught their place. Travis dropped the tablet on the bench. The silence in the locker room was heavy, suffocating. Every other officer was looking at him, and for the first time, he did not see solidarity. He saw distance. They were mentally cutting the rope, letting him drift away so he would not drag them down. Miles east in the brownstone that exuded warmth and history, the atmosphere was vastly different. Leland Thorpe sat in his leather armchair, an ice pack pressed to his shoulder. His daughter, Lila, sat on the ottoman at his knees, carefully cleaning a small scrape on his wrist with antiseptic. She was crying silently, tears tracking through the glitter of her birthday makeup. I'm fine, Lila, Leland said softly, using his good hand to stroke her hair. It is just a bruise. It is not just a bruise, Dad. She sniffled, her voice trembling with anger. He slammed you. I watched the video. He looked at you like you were nothing. You are something, Leland corrected her gently. And that is why this is going to matter. If he had done this to a boy from the projects, to someone without a voice, it would be their word against his. The report would say, suspect resisted. And that would be the end of it. Leland looked at the fireplace, his eyes hardening. But he chose the wrong man. He chose a man who knows how the machine works, because he helped build it. The doorbell rang. It was aggressive, insistent. Lila jumped up, but Leland signaled her to stay. I will get it, He walked to the door, still in his vest and slacks, the ice pack in hand. He checked the peephole. Standing on his porch was Chief of Police Ellis Mercer, accompanied by the Mayor Claire Vargas. Leland opened the door. "Justice Thorpe," Mayor Vargas began, stepping forward with a practiced look of concern. "We came as soon as we saw the news. This is a catastrophe, a terrible misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Leland repeated the word, tasting it like spoiled milk. "Come in." He led them to the study. He did not offer them a seat. He did not offer them a drink. He stood by the fireplace, towering over them. "We are prepared to issue a formal apology immediately," Chief Mercer said, wringing his hat in his hands. He was a political creature, a man who survived by balancing budgets and public opinion. Right now his scales were tipping dangerously. "Officer Kane has been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation." "Paid leave?" Leland noted. "Standard protocol, Your Honor," Mercer said quickly. "Union rules. We cannot fire him without due process." "Due process," Leland mused. "Interesting. Tell me, Chief, where was my due process when I was slammed onto the hood of my car? Where was the probable cause? Where was the articulable suspicion?" "He made a mistake," the mayor interjected, "a grave one. But Justice Thorpe, we have to think about the city. The tension is already high. If we make this a spectacle, it could incite riots. We want to handle this quietly. The city is prepared to offer a substantial settlement for your distress." Leland laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "You want to buy me off?" he asked, incredulous. "You think I need your money? I have a pension, investments, and a salary that affords me a Shelby GT 500. This is not about damages, Mayor. This is about correction." "What do you want, Leland?" the mayor asked, dropping the formalities. "I want the file," Leland said. "What file?" "Travis Kane's personnel file. The real one, not the sanitized version you show the press. I want his disciplinary history, his citizen complaints, his use of force reports, everything." Chief Mercer stiffened. "That is confidential personnel data. We cannot just hand that over without a subpoena." "Then I will get a subpoena," Leland said, walking to the door and holding it open. "And I will not just be suing the city. I will be suing Kane personally. And I will be filing a civil rights violation with the DOJ. You want to avoid a spectacle, Mayor? Then you should have hired better officers." "Leland, please," Mercer pleaded. "Travis is a decorated officer. He has commendations." "And tonight," Leland said, his voice dropping to a whisper, "he has a viral video. Get out of my house." As the door clicked shut, Leland turned back to his daughter. The pain in his shoulder was throbbing, a reminder of the violence, but the pain was fuel. He picked up his phone. He dialed a number he had not used in years. "Griffin," he said when the line connected. "It is Leland. I need a shark, and I hear you are the hungriest one in the water." Soon after, the Oak Creek Police Department looked less like a precinct and more like a fortress under siege. News vans clogged the street, satellite dishes pointing skyward like accusing fingers. Protesters had gathered at the barricades, chanting Leland Thorpe's name. Inside, the mood was toxic. Travis Kane sat in the office of Vince Kowalski, the union representative. Kowalski was a massive man with a neck thicker than Travis's thigh, a former beat cop who had traded his baton for contract negotiations. He smoked a cigar, ignoring the no smoking sign on the wall. "They are hanging me out to dry, Vince," Travis said, pacing the small room. "The chief will not look at me. The guys in the squad room stop talking when I walk in. You have got to fix this." Kowalski exhaled a cloud of gray smoke. "Sit down, Travis. You are making me dizzy." Travis sat, bouncing his leg nervously. "Here's the situation," Kowalski grunted. "The mayor wants your head on a spike to appease the mob. The chief is trying to save his own pension, but the union, we protect our own. The blue wall, right? Right, Travis said, clutching at the hope. However, Kowalski leaned in. You made it real hard, kid. You assaulted a Supreme Court justice. Do you know how many judges I play golf with? None. Because they hate us, but they fear us. You just took away the fear and replaced it with anger. And it was a mistake. I thought the ID was fake. Does not matter what you thought. It matters what can be proven. Now internal affairs is involved. Lieutenant Soto, she is a nightmare. She does not care about the Brotherhood. She cares about the rule book. And what do I do? Travis asked, his voice cracking. You shut up, Kowalski said. You do not talk to the press. You do not talk to your buddies. You stay home. You collect your check, and you let me delay this. We delay until the news cycle moves on to the next tragedy. Then we negotiate a suspension. Maybe a transfer to a quiet district. We can save your job, Travis, but you have to be invisible. Travis nodded, feeling a wave of relief. The union had his back. The system was designed to protect him. He just had to wait it out. But Leland Thorpe had no intention of letting the clock run out. Soon after, Leland stood on the steps of the courthouse. He was not wearing his judicial robes. He was wearing a sharp three-piece navy suit. Beside him stood Griffin Wright, a personal injury attorney known for destroying corporations and insurance companies. Griffin was short, bald, and had a smile that looked like a jagged rift in concrete. A sea of microphones was thrust toward them. Ladies and gentlemen, Griffin Wright projected his voice, cutting through the chatter. We are not here to announce a lawsuit against the city of Oak Creek. That is expected. That is boring. The reporters leaned in. We are here, Griffin continued, gesturing to Leland, to announce the filing of a civil suit against Travis Kane as an individual. We are suing for malicious prosecution, assault, battery, and defamation of character. We are seeking punitive damages that will ensure Mr. Kane never owned so much as a bicycle again, let alone a home. A murmur went through the crowd. Suing a cop personally was rare. Winning was even rarer thanks to qualified immunity. Leland stepped forward to the microphone. The cameras flashed, a strobe light of attention. For years, Leland began, his voice calm and resonant. I have sat on the bench and listened to officers testify. I have given them the benefit of the doubt. I believed that while the system was flawed, the individuals were largely honorable. He paused, looking directly into the lens of the nearest camera. But honor is not a shield for brutality. Officer Kane told me I was a suspect because of where I was and what I drove. He treated the Constitution as a suggestion. He believed his badge gave him the right to be judge, jury, and executioner on the side of the road. Leland held up a manila folder. My attorney has just filed a motion for discovery, and thanks to a brave whistleblower within the department, we already have a starting point. This was the bluff. Or was it? The look in Leland's eyes suggested he held aces. We have received information regarding Officer Kane's stellar record, Leland said. Complaint. Excessive force against a teenager. Dismissed. Complaint. Racial profiling during a traffic stop. Dismissed. Complaint. Falsifying a police report. Suspended for 1 day. The crowd gasped. The reporters were typing furiously. The city knew, Leland said, his voice rising. The chief knew, and they kept him on the street. They gave him a gun and a badge and told him he was above the law. Well, today I am dragging him back down to earth. Back at his house, Travis Kane was watching the press conference on his living room TV. His face was gray. Where did he get that? Travis whispered. Those files are sealed. Kowalski said they were sealed. His phone rang. It was Kowalski. Travis. The union rep's voice was tight. We have a problem. He has my record, Vince. He is reading it on live TV. I know. I am watching. Listen to me. The chief is furious. The mayor is panicking. That whistleblower comment, it spooked everyone. They are looking for a leak. You said you would protect me, Travis shouted. I said I would protect your job, Kowalski snapped. I cannot protect you from a civil shark like Griffin Wright. If he pierces qualified immunity, Travis, the union is not going to pay your legal bills for a personal lawsuit. That is on you. What? I do not have that kind of money. I have a mortgage. I have a truck payment. Then you better pray the city settles fast. But looking at Justice Thorpe, I do not think he wants money. I think he wants blood. The line went dead. Travis dropped the phone. He looked out his window. A news van was pulling up to the curb of his house. They had found him. He ran to the blinds and snapped them shut, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. For the first time in his life, Travis Kane felt exactly what Leland Thorpe had felt on that sidewalk, helpless, surrounded, and guilty until proven innocent. That evening, in the sleek, glass-walled conference room of Griffin Wright's firm, Leland sat looking at a whiteboard covered in names and dates. Whistleblower was a nice touch. Griffin grinned, pouring 2 fingers of scotch. Did we actually have one? Not yet, Leland said, taking the glass. But Brooks looked like he was about to vomit in the booking room. He is the crack in the dam. We just need to apply pressure. You want to depose the rookie? Griffin asked. No, Leland said, staring at the photo of Kane on the board. I want to depose the chief. I want to put Mercer under oath and ask him why he signed off on Kane's retention after the falsified report. I want to make the city choose. Save the chief or sacrifice Kane. That is dangerous, Leland. You go after the chief and the whole department turns on you. No more police protection for your house. No more friendly nods in the hallway. Leland took a sip of the scotch. It burned, a clean, sharp heat. I do not want their protection, Griffin. I want their accountability. Leland pulled a document from his briefcase. It was not a legal filing. It was a letter of resignation from the Supreme Court. You are stepping down? Griffin asked, shocked. If I stay on the bench, they will say I am using my office to influence the case. They will call it a conflict of interest, Leland said. I am retiring. I am going to fight this as a private citizen. I am going to strip away every excuse they have. You are giving up your legacy, Griffin warned. No. Leland stood up, walking to the window overlooking the city lights. I am securing it. Just then, Griffin's paralegal knocked on the door. She looked pale. Mr. Wright, Justice Thorpe, you need to see this. It is breaking news. She turned on the wall monitor. The banner at the bottom of the screen read, Evidence missing in Kane case. The reporter stood outside the precinct. Sources inside the Oak Creek PD confirmed that the body cam footage from Officer Kane's camera is corrupted and unrecoverable. Additionally, the dash cam footage from the cruiser has been reported as malfunctioning during the time of the arrest. Griffin slammed his hand on the table. They erased it. They actually erased it. Leland did not slam the table. He did not shout. He went perfectly, terrifyingly still. They did not just erase evidence, Leland said softly. They just declared war. He turned to Griffin. Change the filing. We are not just suing for assault anymore. We are adding RICO charges. We are going after the department as a corrupt organization. Leland, that is nuclear, Griffin breathed. Then let it burn, Leland said. The filing of a RICO racketeer, influenced and corrupt organization's lawsuit against the Oak Creek Police Department did not just make waves. It caused a tsunami. The allegation was no longer that one bad apple had spoiled the bunch, but that the barrel itself was rotten, designed to protect the rot at the expense of the public. Leland Thorpe sat in the deposition room, his posture rigid. Across the mahogany table sat Officer Finn Brooks. The rookie looked like he had not slept in a week. His uniform, usually crisp, hung loosely on his frame. Beside him was a union attorney, a slick man named Baxter, who kept whispering, "I object," before questions were even finished. "Officer Brooks," Griffin Wright began, pacing slowly behind Leland's chair. "You are under oath. You understand that perjury is a felony punishable by up to years in prison?" "I do." Brooks's voice was a ghost of a sound. "Good. Now let us talk about the body camera footage. The official report states that both yours and Officer Kane's cameras malfunctioned simultaneously. A statistical impossibility. Would not you agree?" "Objection. Calls for speculation," Baxter barked. "I will rephrase." Griffin smiled, a predator showing teeth. "Did you turn off your camera, Officer Brooks?" Brooks looked at Baxter, then at the table, then at Leland. Leland was not looking at him with anger. He was looking at him with expectation. It was the look Leland used to give witnesses in his courtroom, a look that said the truth was the only life raft he had left. "No," Brooks whispered. "I did not turn it off." "Then why is there no footage?" "Because," Brooks swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. "Because after we booked the suspect, Justice Thorpe, Kane took my camera. He said he needed to upload the data for the report. That is standard procedure. The senior officer handles the upload." "Did you see him upload it?" "I saw him go into the server room," Brooks said, sweat beading on his forehead. "But he was in there a long time, and he was not alone." The room went deadly silent. Even Baxter stopped scribbling on his notepad. "Who was with him?" Leland asked. It was the first time he had spoken. His voice was low, commanding. Baxter slammed his hand down. "My client is not required to answer." "He is required to answer facts witnessed," Griffin roared. "Who was in the room, Brooks?" Brooks closed his eyes. He was young. He had joined the force to help people. Now he was being asked to bury his career to save a man he despised. He looked at Leland, the man whose life they had tried to ruin. He saw the dignity there. Then he thought of Kane's arrogance, the way Kane called him idiot and forced him to be an accomplice. "Chief Mercer," Brooks said. Baxter dropped his pen. "Chief Mercer was in the server room with Kane," Griffin clarified, his voice trembling with the magnitude of the admission. "Yes, I saw them through the glass partition. Kane was typing. The chief was standing over him watching the screen. They were laughing." "Laughing," Leland repeated, a cold fury rising in his chest. "Yeah, like they were getting away with something. When Kane came out, he handed me my camera and said, 'Glitch in the system, kid. Happens all the time. Just write in the report that the battery died.'" "And did you write that?" "Yes." Brooks began to cry, silent tears tracking down his cheeks. "I was scared. Kane said if I did not back him, the union would leave me to the wolves. He said, blue bleeds for blue." Griffin leaned in close. "Well, Officer Brooks, today you just applied a tourniquet to yourself and let them bleed out. Thank you." The leak of the deposition transcript was instantaneous. Within hours, Chief Mercer was trending globally. The narrative shifted violently. It was no longer about a racist cop. It was about a conspiracy reaching the highest levels of city power. At the precinct, chaos reigned. Chief Mercer barricaded himself in his office. The mayor, seeing the political fallout, publicly called for an independent investigation by the state attorney general, a move designed to distance herself from the sinking ship. But for Travis Kane, the walls were closing in fastest. He sat in his living room, the blinds drawn, surrounded by empty beer cans. His phone had stopped ringing. Kowalski, the union rep, was not answering texts. The blue wall had not just cracked, it had dissolved, leaving him exposed. Then a knock at the door. Not the polite knock of a neighbor, but the heavy, authoritative pound of law enforcement. Travis stumbled to the door, peering through the peephole. It was not the local PD, it was the state police. And in the driveway, a black SUV with federal plates. The FBI. He opened the door. Travis Kane. A tall agent in a windbreaker flashed a badge. I am Agent Cole, FBI, Civil Rights Division. We have a warrant for your arrest. Arrest? Travis laughed, a hysterical, broken sound. For what? A traffic stop? For deprivation of rights under color of law, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and tampering with evidence, the agent recited. And Mr. Kane, your partner Brooks just gave us the hard drive from his home computer. Travis froze. He did not just trust the server. The agent smirked. The kid made a local backup of his cam footage before he handed the camera to you. He figured you might try something. Turns out he was the only smart cop in the building. Travis felt his knees give way. The glitch was not a glitch. The evidence existed. The video of him shoving a Supreme Court justice, the audio of his slurs, the footage of him deleting files with the chief. It was all there. Turn around, the agent commanded. Travis turned. The handcuffs clicked shut. They felt tighter than the ones he had put on Leland. They felt permanent. The trial of the people versus Travis Kane and Thorpe versus the city of Oak Creek became the most watched legal event of the decade. It was not held in the local courthouse. The venue was moved to the state capitol to ensure an impartial jury, though finding anyone who had not seen the viral video was nearly impossible. Leland Thorpe sat in the front row. He was no longer a justice. He had resigned as promised to pursue this fight without the shackles of judicial ethics. He sat as a private citizen, a father, and a black man who refused to be a victim. The prosecution, led by a ruthless assistant U.S. attorney, played the recovered footage on a massive screen. The courtroom watched in stunned silence. They saw the Shelby pull over. They heard the jazz music. They saw Travis's sneer. You think a suit makes you one of them? The jury flinched at the sound of Leland's body hitting the car, but the damning blow was the second video, the security footage from the server room recovered by FBI forensics from the ghost data of the hard drive. It showed Travis and Chief Mercer standing over the terminal. Delete it all. Mercer's voice was captured on the internal mic of the server tower, a failsafe they did not know existed. Wipe it. If this gets out, the mayor will have my badge. Make him look like an aggressor in the report. We will bury him in paperwork until he pleads out. Travis on screen laughed. Do not worry, Chief. Who is going to believe a boy from the east side over a decorated officer? In the courtroom, the real Travis Kane slumped in his chair. He looked small. The arrogance had evaporated, leaving behind a terrified man in a cheap suit that did not fit. He refused to look at the jury. He refused to look at Leland. When Leland took the stand, the atmosphere shifted. He did not speak with anger. He spoke with the precise, devastating clarity of a man who had spent his life interpreting the truth. Mr. Thorpe, the defense attorney tried, his voice shaky. Is it not true that you were argumentative? That you refused to comply with a lawful order? Leland adjusted his glasses. An order based on an unlawful premise is not lawful, counselor. It is tyranny disguised as procedure. Officer Kane did not stop me because I committed a crime. He stopped me because he could not reconcile my existence with his prejudice. He saw a car he wanted driven by a man he despised, and he decided to put me in my place. My resistance was not to the law, it was to the violation of it. The jury nodded. The defense attorney sat down defeated. Then came the turn of the chief. Mercer had cut a deal. In exchange for a lighter sentence, he testified against Travis. He painted Travis as a loose cannon. a rogue cop who had manipulated the situation. It was a lie, but it sealed Travis's fate. The rats were eating each other. The verdict came back in hours, guilty on all counts. But the criminal conviction was only the first hammer to fall. The second was the civil judgment. The jury in Leland's civil suit did not just want to compensate him. They wanted to send a message to every precinct in the country. They awarded Leland millions in compensatory damages from the city. But against Travis Kane personally, they awarded millions. Travis did not have millions. He did not have thousands. After the verdict was read, Leland walked over to the defense table. The bailiffs tensed, but Leland raised a hand. He leaned down to Travis, who was weeping with his head in his hands. "Look at me," Leland said. Travis looked up. His eyes were red, hollow. "You asked me on the street if I knew who I was?" Leland said softly. "I'm the man who just took your freedom. And now I am the man who owns your future. Every paycheck you ever earn, every asset you ever acquire belongs to me until that debt is paid. You will never have a moment of financial peace again." "I am sorry," Travis choked out. "I am so sorry." "I know," Leland said, standing up and buttoning his jacket. "But apologies do not erase records, Mr. Kane. Only justice does." Months later, the rain slicked the pavement of Highland Avenue, much like it had on that fateful night, but the flashing lights were gone. The bakery was warm and inviting. Leland Thorpe sat at a window table at Liddy 4, sharing a raspberry tart with his daughter, Lila. "How does it feel?" Lila asked, noticing her father staring out at the spot where he had been arrested. "Quiet," Leland smiled. "Peaceful." The fallout had been absolute. Chief Mercer was serving years in federal prison. The mayor had resigned in disgrace. The Oak Creek Police Department was under a federal consent decree, forcing a complete overhaul of their hiring and training practices. And Travis Kane? Leland took a sip of his coffee. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a letter he had received that morning from his asset recovery team. Travis was out on bail, pending appeal, but his life was over. The letter confirmed the seizure of Travis's assets to satisfy the judgment. His truck was gone. His boat was gone. His house in the suburbs had been foreclosed on and sold at auction. The proceeds had been deposited into a trust. Leland had not kept a dime. He had used the millions from the city and every cent squeezed from Travis to start the Thorpe Legal Defense Fund, a nonprofit dedicated to providing top-tier legal representation for victims of police misconduct who could not afford a lawyer. "Dad," Lila said, pointing out the window, "look." Across the street, a man in a neon vest was picking up trash along the curb as part of a court-mandated community service crew. He looked aged, gaunt. He stabbed a piece of wet paper with a spiked stick, his movements sluggish and defeated. It was Travis Kane. A luxury car drove by, a black Mercedes. The driver, a young black man, honked at Travis to get out of the road. Travis flinched, stepping back into a puddle, soaking his boots. He looked up, anger flashing in his eyes for a second before he remembered where he was. He looked down, humbled, and stepped back onto the sidewalk. Leland watched him. There was no joy in the sight, only a grim satisfaction that the scales had balanced. "He looks miserable," Lila said. "He looks accountable," Leland corrected. He turned back to his daughter. "Finish your tart. We have a board meeting for the foundation. There are a lot of people who need our help." Leland stood up. He walked out of the bakery, head held high. He walked to his car, not the Shelby, which he had auctioned off for charity, but a sensible sedan. He did not need the flashy car anymore. He did not need the title of justice. He unlocked the door, paused, and looked at the sky. The storm had passed. The air was clean. As he drove away, he passed Travis one last time. Travis looked up, locking eyes with Leland through the glass. There was no sneer this time, no arrogance, just the haunting recognition of a man who had challenged a giant and been crushed by the weight of his own hubris. Leland did not nod. He did not smile. He simply kept driving, moving forward, leaving the past in the rearview mirror where it belonged. The system was still broken. The world was still unfair. But on this street, in this city, for this one moment, justice had been served. The downfall of Travis Kane was not just a legal victory. It was a rebalancing of the universe. He lost his badge, his freedom, and his future. Because he underestimated the dignity of the man he tried to oppress. Leland Thorpe proved that while the badge represents power, the law represents truth. And when the two clash, the truth must win. Travis is now paying for his arrogance every single day, cleaning the very streets he used to terrorize, while the money from his liquidated life funds the defense of the people he used to target. It is a harsh lesson, but a necessary one. Karma does not possess a badge, and it does not need a warrant. If you enjoyed this story of justice served cold, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Do not forget to share this video with someone who needs to see karma in action, and subscribe for more dramatic stories of underdogs fighting back. See you in the next.